Hello everyone, today I want to talk about personal integrity and 9 ways you can create and strengthen your own personal integrity. Hello everyone, today I want to talk about integrity, which is really your self-belief and belief that you're a divine essence and how you interact with people from a position of truth and strength. As always, I'm going to begin with a quote, and that quote is, "Whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted with important matters." The great physicist Albert Einstein. So I'll say that quote one more time. Whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted in important matters. Albert Einstein's just nailed it. Now, there was a show for my Western audience that you might remember. It's called Judge Judy. And I never really quite understood the show, but I loved it. I used to watch it all the time back in my TV watching days. And to set the scene for people who haven't seen it, Judge Judy was a court judge, I think, in California, and she would hear cases live on TV. Now, she would hear very sort of, gossip-based sort of charges, like nothing like murder or anything big like that, but basically small disputes between people that I felt were impossible to sort of distinguish between right and wrong, fiction and fact. The problem was you had one defendant that said this person owed me $500. You had the person who was defending themselves saying I didn't owe them $500, and there was limited evidence, and Judge Judy really used her experience as a judge and probably as a human being in order to make the correct decision. And she seemed to get it right quite often. So I watched her very closely because obviously success leaves clues, and the universe shows you many different mysterious paths via mentors and role models on how to create the life you deserve. And what I noticed about Judge Judy was that she would ask questions that were very, very mundane, and she would really pinpoint them. And I would sit there thinking, that question has nothing to do with the case. An example would be, she would say to one of the defendants who had their car crashed into that night, she would say things to them, where were you earlier in the day before the car accident happened? And they'd say, well, I was at the bar. And Judge Judy would say, okay, and what were you doing at the bar? And they'd say, drinking. And she goes, well, how many drinks did you have? And the defendant might say, well, I had 1 beer. And she goes, okay, cool. She goes, was it 1 beer or 2 beers? And they'll go, oh, it was 1 or 2 beers. And she goes, well, which one is it? Was it 1 or 2 beers? And he goes, well, it was okay, I think I probably had a few beers by that time. A few beers. So let me get this straight. Did you have 1 beer or did you have more than 4 beers? And they'd say, oh, probably more than 4 beers. And she'd pause. And she'd go, okay, continue with the story. What I soon realised was Judge Judy was working off the principle that Einstein mentioned in the quote, that if you're willing to lie about small matters, you'll have no problem lying about big matters that are going to affect your personal life or your integrity. So I think that's very true. Now, people are repeating patterns. They don't mean to be negative or bad or influence you or hurt you. They just repeat patterns. They manifest through their chakras and through their life experience and through their karma. They don't really want to create mayhem and mischief for other people. They don't even know they're doing it most of the time. And when the consequences hit, they're just as shocked as many other people. So it's important to understand that ultimately repeating patterns in life, you should observe, you shouldn't judge, but you should get out of their way. So if you have people around you who lie about small things, the assumption is that small pattern of lies can be a big pattern of deception if you allow it to grow or put them in a position where they need to be trusted. Another fantastic quote that I want to give just before we get into the 10 ways to increase your integrity is by the amazing Waldo Emerson. And his quote is, "Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind." Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind. Waldo Emerson. Your own mind cannot be controlled. Yes, you can be told where to live. Yes, you can find circumstances on a phenomenal level around you that might not be perfect. However, your mind, which is your navigating system through this conscious reality, is yours and no one else's. Giving up control of your mind to someone else starts when you lose integrity. When you don't believe in yourself and don't believe in the wisdom and the guidance of truth, that's when you start to give away your thoughts to others. So I'm going to begin with number 1. And number 1 is to identify aspects of your behaviour that require change. This is very straightforward for me. I began very quickly to understand that my behaviour regarding television watching, buying and shopping, drinking alcohol, and being involved in any form of gambling, that behaviour led me to really violate my integrity. They would put me in situations where I might have to tell someone I'm not drinking, or maybe I'm not at the casino, because ultimately what I was trying to do was I was trying to protect my behaviours and stop anyone from judging me, and my integrity would erode. So you need to write down behaviours. Remember, they're just repeating patterns. They're not you. You're the divine grace that gave birth to the universe. Your behaviours, however, should be identified. Number 2, face the obstacles that weaken you to excuse yourself, lie, or violate your moral code. Now, a great way to do this is understand the word but. If you say things like, I rarely smoke, but I do at a party, you can start to see your excuses. You can start to see that you do smoke at parties. And you need to start really getting clear with yourself on what those excuses are. Obstacles may be things like you need to, on Wednesdays, you hang out with someone that you know isn't great for you. And you know that you do things when you're around them that you're not necessarily proud of. You need to identify those obstacles so you can remove them from your life. Number 3, this is a great one, fulfill your promises. Your promises, your word, and it's been said for a long time, a man is only as good as his word, are key to building your integrity. It's like the steel that you build your integrity with is the truth that you tell and the promises you give. One of the greatest ways to stop lying or deceiving is to make sure you fulfill your promises, because when you are certain in yourself that you're about to promise something, if you think you can't do it, you won't promise it because you know you're going to live up to it. I used to be in sales a long time ago, and when I was going through my spiritual journey, I really felt that I should give absolute truth to people. And quite often, other salespeople would say to me, hey, what are you doing? Telling them that sort of stuff. And I would say, listen, when I talk, I give the truth, and I believe people can feel it, and I believe if it's right for them, they'll still buy from me. And it was found to be correct, that ultimately you can feel truth. We all know when we think someone's lying. Now that's our deepest soul really exhibiting and looking at the patterns that are happening in front of us. If you fulfill your promises, people will believe in you, trust you, and coincidences and circumstances will start to move your way. Number 4, respect the property of others. How easy it is to break rapport with someone, put your feet up on a desk that they own, not put that cup back in the dishes, not knock at the door at someone who you're familiar with and just open the door. Other people's property is something that can be quite often sacred to them, and showing respect for that property ultimately shows respect for them. 5, I'm huge on this, keep appointments. The biggest gift you have to give any other human being on this cosmos is your time. And when people violate your time, they're violating your only gift. Now, you would hate to do that to someone else, so keep your appointments. Wherever possible, make it your absolute, mission to keep your appointments. And if you can't, ensure that you give the other person ample time and you reschedule. 6, listen and respect the opinions of others. They are the universe giving you information. Now, you might not agree with their opinion, and you might think their opinion you may label their opinion as good or bad, but ultimately, the reason they're talking to you is because the divine plan of the cosmos has put them there as a teacher for you to learn. And if you don't listen, and if you wait to respond rather than actually take the information in, you miss the lesson. Now, if the lesson's a tough lesson, and let's say it's one about relationships or particularly bad relationships, the universe is going to keep delivering up that person or those type of people until you get it. And when you listen, you can hear the universe calling in their words. 7, get comfortable saying no. To maintain your integrity, you have to say no. I mean, that's a core premise. That's really your stop sign to going outside of the field of integrity. So you'll really need to get comfortable saying no to things you know will violate your integrity. 8, polish your communication skills. When we don't act in a clear, direct and truthful manner, we have habits of wandering, saying things that might be exaggerations. You need to understand that your communication form needs to be direct and truthful. When you get into perhaps the old patterns of embellishing stories or trying to impress people, that's when your integrity really starts to warp. 9, avoid people who lack integrity. You are more like the 4 people that you know best than you are like yourself. You will generally move to the levels of your peer group. If someone in your peer group lacks integrity, you'll need to avoid them to build integrity. Now, ultimately, leaving them puts them in a situation where they'll notice people leaving because of their lack of integrity, and they'll look to build their integrity. So really, it's a win-win. Number 10, ask yourself, how do I act when no one's watching? Putting $10 note in a donation box in a crowded room is fantastic, and I'm sure that money will go to serve some purpose. But ultimately, what would you do if that room was empty? And if you'd still put that money in that donation box, even though no one was watching, that's integrity. So if you ever need to ask yourself, what's the best and most, how can I act with integrity right now? Ask yourself, what would I do if God was watching me? And what would I do if no one was in the room? Because if you'd still do it while God was watching you, then that's acting with integrity. And guess what? God is watching you. The universal consciousness is with you wherever you go. It sits inside you and is your vehicle and platform to see the world. So God's with you, God is you, and integrity is the way God would act. So I hope you found this message of value. As we head through our 1-year life transformation system, we're really building, we're building our muscles of will, meditation, power, and integrity is a huge part. Act with integrity, others will follow your example, and you'll find more, and the universe will create more and more situations and coincidences for people with integrity to come into your life. I can't wait to see you for tomorrow's video. Until then, goodbye.